Yo, I'm reviewing my first Commonwealth Brewing Company beer. This is a brewery that's not super new, but they're new to New England. They're from Virginia, and we got like 5 different varieties shipped up here last week, and I bought every single one of them, and most of them are pretty good. They're not totally blowing my mind with New England style, but they're doing the hazy stuff pretty well. Probably Wapatoolie was my favorite I've had from them so far. That's like their kind of standard IPA. I guess this is more of their flagship IPA. It has the most reviews on Untapped. It's called Wapatoolie, 7.3%. And the deal with this is that it uses some kind of Brettanomyces yeast strain, or perhaps it's the yeast formerly known as Brettanomyces, Saccharomyces trois is what they call that one. A yeast that looked and behaved like Brettanomyces, but actually when they checked it out genetically, it's a Saccharomyces strain. Saccharomyces is your standard ale, cider, wine yeast. It's the same thing that you use to, put in yeasted breads to make them rise and all that stuff. So I'm not sure, but I did read somewhere that it said Brettanomyces. I don't know what hops are in this, but they're going for like the tropical thing, using Brett strains that are especially tropical. That's what I found. And having lots of different Brettanomyces beers, is that some Brett strains can actually make these really intense, ripe tropical fruit notes that are reminiscent of these hazy, juicy IPAs these days. I'm not sure on the date of the canning of this. For some reason, only their like one-off special beers that I got had can dates. But I think it was about a month old. I did look in their social media stuff, and it looks like this batch came available about a month old, so should be in good shape. And I've noticed a lot of batch variation in their beers from my friends on Untapped and stuff, and other people on Untapped. Sometimes this beer looked way darker than this on Untapped. Same with Wapatoolie. But it's looking like this is in good shape. Yeah, a lot of these brewers who haven't been doing the New England style hazy thing for so long, I find that if it's really hazy and they let in too much oxygen during packaging, within like less than a month they can start darkening and showing oxidation notes, but that does not look oxidized at all. This is actually the least hazy of the IPAs I've had from them. The other two were much more New England, murky in the looks. This one is not without haze, but it looks more like I don't know, your Sip of Sunshine. I guess Sip of Sunshine is a little bit darker, but nothing too wild. There could be more sediment on the bottom. This has been sitting in my fridge safely for almost a week now. Head's looking pretty good. Interesting. There's nothing really wild about that aroma. It doesn't smell, I don't know, the Wapatoolie seemed like it was more tropical. This smells like kind of a clean yeast. It smells like very citrusy, very juicy, zesty citrusy, with a very light hint of resinous pine. Yeah, this isn't really New England style, in my opinion. That doesn't mean I won't like it, though. It smells like it's not going to be as sweet as the other two I had from them, that were not so bitter. I'm actually noticing a little bit of, pale malt, Honey Nut Cheerios type aromas. But it makes me think that there's like El Dorado in this, and it's very limey. Maybe has some unripe melon going on in there. And just like a hint of pineapples and peaches, I guess I would say. It's 7.3, which isn't too strong, but I feel like I'm noticing some boozy alcohol bite. Maybe it has to do with the phenolics in there, some of those slightly medicinal, like spiciness things that come from phenols in combination with the booze. Has really nice tiny little bubbles in there. But I'm thinking I should have done a review of Poppy Chulo because I like that one more. I can say already, this just seems more old-fashioned. This seems like kind of proto New England IPA when brewers were starting to use newer yeast strains and leaving things unfiltered, but this doesn't. I would never ever guess that this has some kind of Brettanomyces like yeast strain. It seems pretty clean and very crisp. Yeah, it makes you think of actually like Half Acres IPAs. Half Acres from Chicago. It's pretty fruity, but it's not really juicy. It's got a pretty nice body and feel, but not thick or creamy, and not juicy either. And it finishes with a harsh, savory bite that reminds me of West Coast clean yeasts. I'm really confused by this beer and what they talk about with their yeast strain. I know that I think it was on Untappd, it says mentions Brettanomyces, and then on their site, on Commonwealth's site, they say just like a special yeast strain. So maybe it's changed, maybe it isn't Brettanomyces, but it's not, doesn't really have any of the character I connect with Brettanomyces, except for the phenolic, slightly medicinal notes that I get from Brett, which isn't my favorite part about it. Definitely doesn't seem like a Brett IPA. There's no funk, and the finish. It also reminds me of when I've had some of this Maine brewery. What are they called? Banded Horn. Reminds me of some of their IPAs too. Yeah, it just has this almost like it seems like the water's kind of hard with this savory medicinal yeasty bite in the finish that detracts from all the fruitiness and makes it seem stronger than it is. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this one. Unless it seems like the batches start varying and getting better, I'm probably not going to buy this one. I don't know if I would really recommend it. I would recommend their other IPAs, probably, though those seem to have big batch variation, but the Poppy Chulo was good. And I also have this double IPA that's featuring Galaxy that has like the highest ratings of all their beers. But that one is just for the first time ever brewed, so I'm not sure if I'm going to do a review of that one, but that one's supposed to be really good. It looks really hazy and stuff. Maybe I should have done a review of that one instead. But I try to do the ones that, people have chances of getting, but yeah, it's just got a lot of lemon, lime sort of characteristics. The tropical notes that I was sort of getting in the aroma, the sort of peaches, canned peaches or pineapples, is not really in there. It's not very sweet. And it finishes with this lingering, hard, resinous yeast, like savory yeastiness that really reminds me of the finish in some West Coast IPAs, except this doesn't have quite the bitterness of a Stone IPA. Then on my scale, I'd probably give this a 3.5. Definitely disappointed, but I knew that this one was going to be hard to figure out whether it would be good or not because of all sorts of opinions and all sorts of different looking pictures. Commonwealth is not, I'm not going to totally write them off. I think they probably make some good beers, but their IPAs just seem to be kind of all over the place. Their sour beer that I had, which is like, it was called it was a sangria one, like something Tinta. That was pretty good. But for Wapatoolie, they got to dial in or do something. And I wouldn't call it a New England style IPA, so probably like 3.5 from me. Goodbye.